Well, I'm here at Explorer Lodge on Easter Island with the Australian Prime Minister, Bob Hawke. And Bob, starting with the Galapagos, how did you find the overall experience on the Pinta and the Galapagos Islands themselves?
Well, the Pinta was a very comfortable ship and taking us to an absolutely unique place. When I was there, standing where just over about 2.5 lifetimes ago, Charles Darwin stood and undertook his study, which turned so much conventional thinking on its head. It was mind-boggling in a sense. And of course, the highlight of the Galapagos is the animal life, bird life, and some of the plant life, which so inspired Darwin and remains still enthralling.
Bob, could you describe one of the highlights you experienced on the Galapagos?
Well, as I say, the animal life, the marvellous playful sea lions, the blue-footed booby birds, and I guess most of all, the giant tortoises. They're unique. And while I didn't see it myself, a couple of my friends were fortunate enough to see these handsome creatures mating.
So Bob, now that we're on Easter Island, how have you found the experience here?
Look, it's just almost beyond description. One had thought, you'd been to the Galapagos, thought here was a sort of tag on Easter Island, we'll see the statues. But it has been, for me, I've got to say, I think I've enjoyed it even more than the Galapagos. Why? Because here you see these giant statues built up to 1,500 years ago, and your mind just imagines these primitive men and women faced with the elemental forces of nature and trying to put themselves in some place in this great cosmos. And it just stimulates the imagination so much. It's also beautiful. The ocean shoreline is outstandingly beautiful. And overall, most important, there's almost a sense of mystery about the place and quietness.
It is. I mean, it is for me too, Bob. I think it's an amazingly quiet place and an amazing experience here. What would be your suggestion on preserving Easter Island?
Well, I would say to the Chilean authorities, just make this a #1 priority. Don't allow it to become inhabited to a great extent. It's only a local population of some 5,000 or so now. These people descended after some great tribal warfare here, which wiped out the population, and not only warfare, but at an earlier stage, some of the Peruvian authorities come here and raided, took people away to the mainland as slaves, labourers. They returned and brought back a lot of exotic diseases and wiped out a lot of people. And the surviving Easter Island men and women are, I think, remarkably attractive. It should be retained in its still pristine beauty, because there is something, I think, quite unique about the place.
And Bob, going back to the Galapagos, do you think that tourism there is there's too many people there at the moment?
Well, you don't want to deny people the opportunity of seeing something unique as Galapagos is, but I think the authorities there, the Ecuadorian authorities, need to do more to act against the depredations that are being made in some respects, not just by humans but by imported species and so on. And I think any money expended now is an absolutely worthwhile investment. That is a place which must be preserved. As here with Easter Island, it's been described in a sense as the navel of the Pacific. It's so isolated and attractive, because I find in tourism what I want to see is beautiful things and also things which stimulate the imagination, and that's exactly what Easter Island does.
And on the ship, Bob, you found that the food and the staff and you got on and off
Passengers.
So Bob, what would you say to someone thinking about taking this trip?
I would say don't hesitate. You've got two contrasting environments. Galapagos, as I say, the place where Darwin started gathering his evidence for the theory of evolution, the origin of species. It remains outstandingly attractive in the variety of bird, animal life, sea life. It is something which is a must almost, and for those who are keen on snorkeling and swimming, the conditions there are perfect. So there you have animal life, and you think about animals, and you think about your mind is stimulated by thinking back about Darwin and what his studies has meant forevermore. And you come here to Easter Island, and again, your imagination is stimulated because you see these absolutely indescribably intriguing giant statues, and as I say, your mind thinks of primitive man there confronted with these vast, powerful elemental forces of nature, trying to make their mark, to make themselves understood, the relationship between these elemental forces and their own existence, which over time saw them facing the sort of situation that we're concerned about in the world now, the gradual elimination of resources of timber, which led to their, well, not to their demise, but to the diminution of their capacity to have the sort of life that they had previously experienced.
And Bob, I guess to sum it up, do you have like an overall highlight or a special moment that you've had in the last 2 weeks?
I think it would have to be here on Easter Island. That's looking at this row of vast statues built over 1,000 years ago, well over 1,000 years ago, and just against the background of the beautiful backdrop of the Pacific Ocean, seeing and thinking of how they drag these huge statues, 17 or more kilometres, putting them on their platforms. Your mind just can't help going back and saying, well, what is it all about? Where are we? Where are we going? What is happening?
Yeah, I think that was for me too, Bob. And Bob, thanks very much for your time, and it's been a pleasure having you on the trip with us, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you very much. It was an absolutely marvellously well organised trip. Everything that we could possibly have thought about for our convenience and pleasure was there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.